Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. Hello, I'm excited to be back from vacay. Was in Florida for much longer than anticipated. It was absolutely wild. It was a great reset. You know, I needed it. The family needed it. David needed it. Just being able to be in the sun for, I don't know how long my vacation actually was because it ended up being 2 days longer than it was supposed to be. And I don't want to go on a complete rant about it because I'm saving it for the next episode of the Pop-Off, which I'll get to that in a second. But long story short, we had problems going to Florida and coming home from Florida. And we were supposed to be home on Saturday. Flight got canceled. We couldn't get out until Monday, which was insanity. Then on Monday, our flight was delayed 4 hours for us to get home and be locked out of the house. Locked out of the house. That was the first test of my marriage. Like, we've been in the honeymoon phase, happy-go-lucky, kissing and hugging, you know, giving each other little butt love taps every time we see each other in the kitchen. The locking out of the house situation tested me in ways that I have not been tested yet before because, look, it was an accident, so I'm not gonna place blame on anyone, although David is the one who drove. So David took his keys. His car keys don't have a house key on it. Why don't the car keys have a house key on it? Was my first question. The second question is he's like, no, we have a code thing on our front door. He said he was just going to use that. Well, we get home, we type in the code. We have a child lock on our front door. We don't have a child. So why is there a child lock on the front door? That was question number 2. Question number 1, why isn't there a house key on the car keys? Question number 2, why do we have a child lock on the front door when we don't have a child? So it doesn't matter that we couldn't get in with the little punch code because we had the child lock on the other side of the door and it was a mess. It was a nightmare. But anyways, like I said, that is a conversation for the Pop-Off, although I could go on a complete tangent about it now. That's only like 1/4 of the travel nightmare getting to and from Florida. But look, I have a little bit of a tan. I have a little bit of base glow. You just feel better when you have some color to you, you know, instead of looking like you just came straight out of the womb like a piece of paper, because that's my normal skin tone, is like blinding white. At this particular moment, like my forehead alone could be sponsored by aloe vera because I did get a little bit of a burn. But you know what? We're looking at the glass half full. I just love having a little sun-kissed glow. Before we get into it, we have a lot to discuss. I just want to say thank you again for tuning in to the Pop-Off. Like I said, I have no idea where it's going to go, if people will like it, what have you, but my DMs are full of people who want to be in the Golf Wife support group. Love to hear it. And I also want to just remind you, I know the Pop-Off came out on Thursday last week. The normal MPT episodes aren't going anywhere. There were some people that were a little bit confused. Every Thursday, we're still going to have the pop culture and reality TV Morgan's Pop Talks moment. The only reason why I released the first pop-up episode on that Thursday was because I was on vacation. And I wanted to get something to you, but I knew I wouldn't be able to watch all the shows and do a podcast from Florida. So from here on out, Thursdays will be normal Thursdays, and then pop-offs are just going to happen really whenever I have a moment to record them. Anywho, let's get into the Pop 3. The 3 biggest headlines in reality TV and pop culture of the week. We have our first ever Golden Bachelorette. It is Joan Vassos. So Joan, we remember her, gorgeous, gorgeous girl with her luscious, long blonde locks, 61 years old. She is the first Golden Bachelorette. She was on Gerry's season, but she had to leave the show early because her daughter had some complications after giving birth. And it was a very emotional goodbye. You know, she had just gotten the group date rose the day prior, but she said, you know, when my daughter calls, I'm a mom first. I got to go home. I got to be with my girl. When she self-eliminated, people were upset because Joan was a fan favorite. We could see her connection with Gerry. If she had not had to leave, she probably would have made it decently far in the process. But that didn't happen. She went home and look, now she's the Golden Bachelorette. So I think best case scenario for Joan. You want to know why? She really didn't get that emotionally invested in Gerry. She only had like one date with him. And although I'm sure the excitement of what could have been was intriguing to her, it's not like a Leslie situation where you get down to the final two and you're heartbroken and you have to take all this time to heal and you have to go to the wedding and all these things. Joan has no strings attached. So I honestly feel like that's part of the reason why they chose her. I think they wanted it to be someone from Gerry's season while also distancing themselves a little bit from Gerry's season because it's turned out to be a dumpster fire. Of course, the way that he handled the breakup with Leslie wasn't my favorite. The Hollywood Reporter article, which I was like, whatever, it's just a hit piece. But then them getting divorced, it's like, how can we, thread the needle and make it make sense without like bringing up the fact that Gerry's season ended up being a disaster? They went with Joan. It's set to kick off in the fall. So how this year will work, obviously we had the Bachelor always comes back in January. Bachelorette Gen season is kicking off in July. And then in the fall, we're going to have the Golden Bachelorette. Also, it's going to be on Wednesdays, so that's different. Also, 90-minute episodes, which I love. I love a 90-minute episode. Gerry's season was 60 minutes, and I felt like even 60 minutes was so much better than 2 hours, what we normally get for The Bachelor, because with The Bachelor, it just feels like a bunch of filler content that I don't really care about, whereas a 60-minute episode – it just flowed a lot better. You weren't getting a lot of fluff. You weren't getting a lot of filler. But that being said, with a 60-minute episode, I was left wanting more. So I feel like 90 minutes is going to be the sweet spot. They recently did this with Survivor, and people are loving it. So I'm really excited for that. But this kind of implies that there's no Bachelor in Paradise this season, which I'm fine with it. I mean, the last season of Bachelor in Paradise was also a dumpster fire. None of the couples are even together anymore. It's like there was no storybook romance on that season of Bachelor in Paradise. So I'm cool with it. And I'm happy that Joan is the pick for the Golden Bachelorette. Headline number 2, there are rumors flying about Summer House stars Jesse Solomon and Amanda Batula. What? Jesse's leaving all kinds of flirty comments on Amanda Batula's every social media platform that she has, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. So it all started, Samantha Bush, our girl, the Bravo historian, she was like sleuthing and she saw just some weird behavior. And also all of our brains have been significantly altered since Scandal. So we just look at situations a little bit differently. And there's like videos of Amanda leaning on Jesse's shoulder. And it's like, that's fine. It's whatever. They might have like a flirty, playful friendship, but the comment section is wild. So in one comment, Jesse said, "You look so hot in the video." A commenter said future couple alert, talking about Amanda and Jesse liked the comment. Amanda did this Skims ad where she was showing the t-shirt bra. Jesse commented on that video and said, "All my comments would be inappropriate, but just know I was here." Then another comment on that same video, he says, "I'm rarely at a loss for words." Now you go on Amanda's TikTok, and in the search bar, you know how like you'll see a video and it'll have a little prompt in the search bar. The search bar on Amanda Batula's TikTok is Jesse Solomon. So we're clearly insane. I love that about us. We're just being our true authentic selves. So don't stop. It's giving Scandal 2.0, except I don't think anybody would be outraged. I'm just saying, Kyle calling his wife all sorts of names on national television is not a great look. I feel like we can all see that Amanda and Kyle are consistently at odds with each other. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not out here condoning cheating. If Amanda wants to be with Jesse in some wild parallel universe, get divorced first, Amanda. But, I'm team whatever Amanda Batula wants to do. I really enjoy her. But I'm also going to say something that I don't think people are going to like. I think this is going to be a hot take. I'm just speaking my truth, okay? And no, going into this statement that I am Team Amanda. But circling back to this last episode of Summer House, because I haven't had the opportunity to talk about it, Amanda is telling Kyle that she wants to have a business venture of her own, which I think she should. She absolutely should have something of her own. I think it's pretty clear that she's not that passionate about Loverboy. Kyle likes to say this is our thing together, but it really feels like it's just Kyle's thing, and Amanda is there helping Kyle. You know what I'm saying? It's not her baby. It's not what she's passionate about. But here's the thing. Was Kyle's approach 100% wrong? Yes. Are his concerns valid? I think they are, because do we really think that Amanda is going to work 2 jobs? That's not happening. I wouldn't work 2 jobs. I'm in the middle of a rewatch. I'm on their wedding season. They didn't even plan their wedding until 3 weeks before it. And even that season, Kyle was talking about how he has to do everything and the wedding isn't going to get planned unless Kyle does this and Kyle does that and whatever. And that might be Kyle, that might be his reality. I'm not entirely convinced that that is reality. I don't think Amanda is as lazy as Kyle portrays her, Bravo portrays her. But like if she's not contributing to Loverboy at Kyle's standard, which is what he's saying now, if she's actively working on something else for herself that she actually cares about, you think that she's going to continue to do that caliber of work, which is already below Kyle's standards? No, it's not happening. It's not happening. So even though him storming off and throwing things, even though I live for a Kyle Cook meltdown, like honestly, a Kyle Cook meltdown gives me the same feeling of like a bachelor wedding, televised wedding. Like I just love it. It makes me feel whole. It makes me feel complete. It makes me feel like I'm exactly where I need to be in life when Kyle Cook is screaming and throwing things and like his mullet is shaking uncontrollably and veins are popping out of his head. I just feel at home when Kyle is doing those types of things. I completely lost my train of thought, what I was trying to talk about Amanda. Anyways, I just do think that if Amanda went and did something else, she would not be working at Loverboy. Even if she had the intention to do both, she will end up not doing both because she will run herself in the ground. I know. I tried to do 2 jobs at one time. It's not easy. And you end up being resentful of the job that you're not that passionate about until you move on to what you really are passionate about. So that and starting a business is very difficult. And I'm just speaking from my own experience. I couldn't do it without David. Like David helps me a lot with stuff behind the scenes. Like I know what I'm good at. I'm good at communication. I'm good at hosting. I'm good at writing. I'm good at editing. I'm not good at all the behind the scenes business stuff of like setting up newsletters and potential online stores and all these things. If it wasn't for David, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I feel like Kyle automatically has this response of everything else that they've done in the past, thinking, I know Amanda's going to need my help in this business and I don't have the bandwidth to give her any help. That's just the way I see it. That being said, I still think that Amanda should do something. I think she should partner with somebody and maybe do like an exclusive line or something with like a cup she and start that way. You know what I mean? Okay. Wow. That was a major tangent. I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to say all that, but I did. I took a week off. So I had a lot to say. Let's move on. Headline number 3, Sophie Turner did her first interview about her divorce from Joe Jonas. She did it with British Vogue. And she said there were some days that she didn't think she was going to make it through. She's calling her lawyer saying, I can't do this. I just can't. I'm not strong enough to stand up for myself. All of the media attention of people trying to paint her as this party mom, absent mom. She said that on her weakest days when she really felt like she wasn't going to get through this, her lawyer reminded her that she's doing it for her kids. So she says, once anyone says to me, do it for your kids, I'm doing it. I wouldn't do it for myself, but I'll find the strength for them. And, talking about the way the media portrayed her, she said it hurt because I really do completely torture myself over every move I make as a mother. Mom guilt, actually, she said mum guilt because that's what they say in England. Mum guilt is so real. I just kept having to say to myself, none of this is true. You are a good mom and you've never been a partier. She talks about this pub picture because, of course, that was the narrative going around. Sophie Turner out until the wee hours in the morning, partying in pubs while she's working on this. I don't know if it was a show or a movie, but it was called Joan. She's contractually obligated to continue filming for 2 more weeks when the divorce news came out. She said, a picture might tell 1,000 words, but it's not my story. It felt like I was watching a movie of my life that I hadn't written, hadn't produced, or starred in. It was shocking. I'm still in shock. I still need to know who's leaking that type of garbage nonsense to the press. I feel like in 2024, we are team girly pop. Like, I feel like every time there's a situation going on and it's like a divorce or a breakup, we're taking the girl's side. We are taking the girl's side. It happened with Ariana. It's happening with Lindsay, which people are shocked about. And it happened with Sophie Turner because 2024 is for the girls. She also said that she wants a copacetic relationship with the Jonas family. She said, I don't want to have this separation. I want to be able to have them all over for Christmases. I don't care about the politics of it. I want us to be in a good place. That's what I'm working towards. So honestly, what did we learn from this? 2024 is for the girls. Okay? Okay. Let's move on to this week's deep dive. Every single week on my Instagram at Morgan P Talks, I open up the deep dive submissions to you. What do you want to talk more about? And today we're going to be talking about Vanderpump Rules finale and the reunion part 1. Obviously, because like I said, I didn't get a chance to chat it out, to brain dump it out last week while I was on vacay. So here I am. I'm just going to go over the biggest parts of the finale and then get into the reunion that was this week because I'm not going to recap the whole entire finale. We've all listened to the recaps by now. But this whole thing is leading up to this performance at Kyle Chan's whiskey launch party. The first major moment is Joe and Katie's little spat. So Joe says that she wants to go say sorry to Katie and hope that Katie says sorry back for whatever they were going through this season. Joe sits down and she says, Katie, I'm sorry if, listen to me, sisters, if anyone ever comes up to you and says, I'm sorry if, they are not apologizing. They're not apologizing for their actions. They're placating you. They're saying, I'm sorry for your feelings. I'm sorry that you have these feelings. Not, I'm sorry that my actions have caused you to have these feelings. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's never an if in an apology. Not, I'm sorry if I hurt you. You're going to say, I'm sorry that my actions caused you pain. Okay, there's a little apology lesson 101 for you. But she says sorry, and what does Katie respond to? She says, you're weird, and that she doesn't think she owes Joe an apology. If I were in Katie's shoes, would I like Joe? Probably not. But I probably would also not call her weird on national television. I just don't think that people ever really think about Katie's feelings in the divorce because her and Schwartz were so toxic together. That doesn't mean that there isn't a deep wound. I feel like there is a deep wound in that divorce and it just has never been addressed. Rachel didn't care last season. Sheena didn't care last season. Joe didn't care. I don't even think Tom Schwartz seems to really care. But I think the more you watch Katie and you watch her actions and you watch how she responds to things, I think that that marriage and that divorce really did hurt her deeply, even though they're no longer romantically involved. And I think that's where all of her reactions stem from. In the extended version of the finale, we get the big fight with Gold Jacket Man. This rando keeps popping up, drinking their alcohol, doing like the WAP in their VIP section. And we didn't see it on the show, but we saw it on social media before the season came out. Brock ends up kicking this guy out. He tries to come back over. The security guy gets involved. He throws a glass. He throws water. Tom Sandoval intervenes. And long story short, the guy ends up getting kicked out. I'm really glad they actually didn't put this in the finale because, first of all, it was like a nothing burger. It was completely random and out of nowhere. But also, it's like, if you're going to try to pull a stunt, if you're ever, for whatever reason, at the Vanderpump Rules finale taping and you're thinking, I'm going to pull a stunt because I'm going to get on national television, you're actually not. So there you have it. We get to Ariana and Sheena in this conversation, and Sheena thinks that Sandoval is like this knight in shining armor because he paid for Hassan, the sound man, to be there. And Sheena thinks that means that she has kissed the frog and he's turned into a prince. She brings it to Ariana like, I know this guy cheated on you in your own home with your friend while you were at your grandma's funeral, but he paid for the sound guy. As if that would change Ariana's opinion at all. I mean, like, what does this actually have to do with the sound guy? I feel like Sheena just keeps on trying to convince her, and it's just not going to happen. And I also feel like if Sheena wanted to have any type of relationship with Tom Sandoval and just kept Ariana out of it, Ariana would be fine with that. Like, ignorance is bliss. Just don't keep constantly coming up to her and talking to her about it. That's the one thing that she doesn't want. And Ariana says she doesn't want an apology from him ever. You can just see the dejected look in Sheena's face because she's frustrated, not with Ariana and her boundary. She's frustrating with how that affects them filming the show. So it's just a weird juxtaposition, I think, to be in. Tom comes over. He tries to ambush the conversation to say sorry. Ariana thinks it's performative because Tom has made no effort to apologize to her behind closed doors when they're living under the same roof for a year. And then Tom goes off because she won't play ball, calling her performative, lazy, fake. And let's just go down this road. Let's say Ariana did have this conversation with Tom Sandoval in the moment on camera. He would start crying and saying that he was sorry, and she would, I think, be like a brick wall. She wouldn't receive it because she doesn't want to receive it because she doesn't believe that it's genuine. So if that conversation, there's no world that Sandoval would go up to Ariana, have a conversation with her, and she'd be like, okay. Like, there's just no world that would happen. So under any other circumstance, the way that she reacted would be deemed like victim mentality or whatever. People would criticize her for not wanting to give him the time of day. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, she would not be responsive in that conversation, and people would say, she's so bitter. She's such a victim. She needs to let it go. I mean, people are already saying it. So when you see Tom in that different light where you don't know, like, is he being genuine? Maybe he is. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Ariana is automatically going to look like the bad guy in that particular situation. So I think she just wanted to stay away from it completely. And I understand. I completely understand where she's coming from. She doesn't want to allow that conversation to be left up to interpretation when Tom Sandoval has never done anything off camera to indicate that he feels any type of remorse for hurting her in the way that he did. So Ariana leaves, and that opens just a huge can of worms. Lala goes off saying it's ridiculous that she can't film with someone who lives under the same roof. She's saying Ariana isn't being real. Do they talk in the house, Lala? Do Tom and Ariana have sit-down conversations at the Island Nook off camera? No, not that we're aware of, right? So it's not that Ariana isn't being real in not wanting to speak to Tom Sandoval. She's not pandering to producers to get a TV moment to talk to Sandoval. I would argue that it's more real for Ariana to walk away, to not talk to Tom Sandoval, because she doesn't talk to him when they're living under the same roof. Lala's mad because she thinks Ariana isn't doing her job in reality TV standards. I think it depends on how you define the job. Is the job putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to make for good TV moments, or is the job showing your real life and letting the producers make the TV out of it? For me personally, I 10 times out of 10 would rather take something real than watch a fake show, because it's so apparent when it's fake. And I know I've given this example a million times throughout this season, but you think Lala Kent wants to go get hot dogs with Joe? No. And it just, at that point, it feels like a waste of our time, to be completely honest. And, you know, people are like, the cast are like, well, why can't Ariana film with Tom when they live under the same roof? Lisa Vanderpump didn't film with Kyle. She straight up quit the show, didn't even show up to the reunion. Stassi wouldn't film with Jax for over a year, but Ariana has to get over it in 4 months. Schwartz couldn't even go play pickleball with Randall off camera without Lala going berserk. So I just think that for some reason, Ariana is being held to this weird double standard, and other people are trying to control her, and other people are trying to persuade her to act a certain way that doesn't feel real and authentic to herself. And I think her setting her boundary and sticking to it still made for dramatic TV, did it not? Did we really need the sit-down conversation with Sandoval and Ariana? We already had the big blowout in the fight. So it's just, I don't know. Then we get to the montage and we're all crying uncontrollably because we believe Vanderpump Rules is over. They are babies 10 years ago. We're seeing them sit down like for their first little confessionals. It's like we're all asking, are we witnessing the end of Vanderpump Rules? I mean, we have Tom crying with Kristen, Tequila Katie crying outside the garage sale, Lala and Stassi's conversation about Lala's dad passing away. We have Katie and Schwartz's wedding. We have the I don't like the sound of your voice fight in Mexico. We have it's not about the pasta. It was a moment. It was a moment. And in that moment, I realized I don't want Vanderpump Rules to end. But it's so hard because it's not what it was. So it's like it will never be what it was. But would you rather have this new version of it, or would you rather it end and like end on a high note? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Here's one part I agree with Lala on. Lala says, I don't feel that Tom and Ariana were ever honest about their relationship until Tom was caught cheating. I agree with her. We've heard Lala say it. We've heard Jack say it multiple times over the years. I'm in the middle of a rewatch. I think I'm on season 6 or 7. And they were having the same problems. Tom wasn't hanging out with Ariana. Ariana didn't want to be intimate with somebody that she didn't feel close to. It's like you forget, but when you go back and rewatch it, you're like, they were having these issues 4 or 5 years ago. And it was like a blip, and then it would go away. And then we'd not see it again for a couple of seasons. And then it would be a blip, and then it would go away. So I feel like they weren't 100% honest about the status of their relationship at all times. But I don't think anybody is. I mean, Lala certainly wasn't. But we get the little last 10 seconds of the episode. The producer says that's the end. Tom Sandoval says, I love it. It's good for me. Like that's what it sounded like. He laughed. And I know I'm sorry. I just scared any children if they're in the room. I'm sorry. But that's what it sounded like. And I think we all just immediately got the ick. So that leads us up to the reunion. A lot of Rachel talk up front about her not coming back and whether or not Tom groomed her. He thinks that implies that she was underage. Lala quickly corrects him and is like, no, it's actually just somebody who's younger than you, more impressionable than you, and someone who is at a higher level of power than the other person. And how does Tom respond to that? He says, I was very impressionable when she took all her clothes off and jumped in my pool. And we all like got the chills because it's like, ugh. We don't want to think about that. But at the end of the day, he just wants to acknowledge that they were equal partners in the affair. It wasn't one person overly pursuing another. They both pursued it together. I talk about Rachel suing Tom and Ariana. Of course, they can't talk about it because it's a legal issue. Sheena can talk about it, so she is going to talk about it. She says Ariana did not distribute the video. And then Tom even agrees to go after him is one thing, but to go after Ariana, he said he questioned if she even had a soul. So rare Tom Sandoval W. Not the soul thing, but to go after Ariana is just a choice. So trigger warning here, we're going to talk about the suicidal thoughts that Tom and Ariana have had over the past season and multiple seasons because it's a big topic of conversation, suicidal ideation. So Tom says that he has been struggling with it or did struggle with it, that to this day, everything he does is heavily criticized and that he's not perfect nor the smartest dude, which I feel like that's where I don't even know if I want to call it a soft spot for him because I don't think that's necessarily correct. I just feel bad at the level of which things get ripped apart. Like, I just can't imagine. My mental health would be so bad if I were Tom Sandoval. And I know that he gets himself into these situations like 9 times out of 10. It's his fault. But I can still feel bad. Can I? I don't know. I just feel like the guy gets ripped on constantly and I wouldn't be able to handle it. I got one mean comment. Somebody said that I looked like 40 when I got my makeup trial done. And I thought about it for weeks. Clearly, still think about it. So I just don't know how people I don't know how people handle that. But anyways, he says that he didn't weaponize Ariana's mental health because he believes that she used it as a manipulation tactic. Talk about sticking your foot in your mouth. Things you should never say for 100, Alex, especially on national television. Oh my gosh. And it's like, how can you say that after you have now been in her shoes when it comes to having those types of thoughts? It's just wild to me. He stepped in it again when he compared the scandal to George Floyd and O.J. Simpson, and Lala has to start interpreting for him. And it's interesting because it used to be Ariana who used to decode what Sandoval was trying to say, or even last season, it was Schwartz, because Sandoval just doesn't, he said it, he's not the smartest dude. He can't articulate himself, I think, in the way that he wants to. Because, Lala says, there are real things that happen that are newsworthy, and this was capturing the same amount of attention, and it's not newsworthy. He said you have the war in Ukraine, and then you have Sandoval, and Sandoval is getting more airtime, and that's what he was trying to say. But Katie from the top ropes with the elbow down, intent versus impact. Doesn't matter how you meant it. The problem is the impact that it made. I mean, Katie Maloney speaks no lies. She just doesn't. Unpopular opinion, Ariana admitting that she did not watch this season at all is a problem. I know she's not the first and she will not be the last, but if Lala wants to call Ariana walking out of the finale offensive to the show or to the audience or whatever, I think not watching the season back is actually offensive. I wouldn't use that word, but come on. I mean, I get why she didn't watch it. She's booked, she's busy, she's living in the moment, don't want to relive it, don't want to get roped back in. But now we're going to have no real pulse on the status of their relationships. What Sheena said about being her backup dancer, how Lala and Sheena are always talking behind Ariana's back about the house. We're just not going to discuss those things at all because Ariana didn't see it. That to me feels more like a disservice to the audience than her walking out of a finale. Sorry, maybe an unpopular opinion, but that's what I think. So then we get to this big moment between Katie and Lala. And it's interesting because when I went back and watched it for a second time, Sheena is actually the one that brings this up. She brings up the fact that Katie wasn't being 100% honest about her relationship with Ariana, which tells me that Lala gave Sheena the information based on the phone call that they had with the producer, Jeremiah. At first, it's about public support after a breakup. they're all like, yeah, of course, we all said we would want that kind of publicity and opportunities and whatever. None of us got it. Ariana was the only one that got it. And she says, but I've talked to Ariana about this as well. So what's the issue? But then it gets turned to the sandwich shop. And I told y'all that this is what this was going to be about. Because from the outside looking in, it does appear that Ariana just up and left to New York, and Katie is left to deal with all of the sandwich shop stuff. No one blames her for going to New York. You're never in a million years going to turn down Broadway to go to your sandwich shop. But Katie is left being the closest in proximity to the sandwich shop. So she's going to have to take on a lot more responsibility when Ariana isn't there. And she was upset because she didn't find out about Broadway until the last second, which obviously I would understand that. And she says the issues she was having was about her own insecurities. It wasn't so much about Ariana being away. In her words, it was more about, am I able to take on all this extra stuff while Ariana is away? And she says, I didn't want to take it to her because I didn't want to guilt her. I didn't want her on Broadway thinking, oh my gosh, I'm leaving Katie high and dry. And then Katie says that Lala wanted her to throw Ariana under the bus about how mad she was about it. I have to say, now listen to me. Listen to this whole thing. Don't listen to the first part and be angry. When I watched the reunion, I was with Lala on this because it did seem as though Katie had these feelings that were valid. I think they're valid feelings. And maybe she just didn't want to bring it up. For what reason? For what reason would you not want to bring it up? Because you know that Ariana is the fan favorite, and you, Katie, of all people are really riding hard for the Ariana and Katie friendship. And if you say something bad, Katie, it's going to have a different effect, right? But if it's really how you feel and it's real, that's one thing. I felt that way until I woke up the next morning and saw her statement on her Instagram. And I'm glad she did it because it changed my perspective of the situation. This is what she said. I'm someone who has suffered from imposter syndrome for as long as I've known myself, hence why I was apprehensive about opening the sandwich shop on my own. So when Ariana was going through not only a world of hurt, but also getting some amazing opportunities that changed a lot of things during a pivotal time, I was extremely sensitive to what she was going through, but also was very supportive. I was dealing with immense insecurity about what I could take on and simply didn't want to put that on her. I had an emotional response that didn't feel appropriate bringing to her front door, so I went to where I felt safe, or where I thought I felt safe. She said she then waited for an appropriate time to share her feelings with Ariana and that they've had plenty of conversations since. And then in the next slide, she said, to know me is to know I value trust, loyalty, and integrity. And I was like, wow, drop the mic. Because what does that do? That, again, paints Lala as a bit of an opportunist when it comes to creating drama for reality television. And I've seen this debate going on for the past couple of days about Lala working, facilitating these conversations, and in this instance, throwing Katie under the bus in regards to a private conversation they had, not on camera. And does that constitute working on a reality show? It's interesting. It's an interesting debate when you really sit down and think about what the line in the sand is. To me, I feel like it comes down to how much you value that friendship. Do you value that friendship more than the show? And it appears that Lala does not. And I think this is why Lala is in such hot water this season with the fan base, is that it feels like Lala doesn't value any of the friendships over the show. She talks a lot about her business and she's keeping things afloat and don't come for my business. And, she has the podcast stuff. We know she was sending the Solid to Daryl merch. She used to have makeup line. I don't know if it's still a thing or not. But it's like, why is it everybody else's responsibility to make Lala feel job security. You know, I just feel like she said it on the reunion part 1. She said she projects, and I think she's projecting. And it's sad because I'm not even going to say that I don't like Lala, because I do. I think people can have a bad season and you can still like them. But I just think she's like really going through it. Okay, wow. I'm rambling. Grace, my producer, is probably like, Morgan, will you shut up? We haven't even got to final thoughts yet, and we're 40 minutes in. Final thoughts. Let's talk about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills updates. So last week, PK and Gerry announced that they were splitting, right as season 14 starts to film. Who would have thought that would happen? Who would have ever thought that Gerry would have this bombshell information on the heels of demotion rumor? It's like, give me a break. Give me a break. Is this surprising to anybody? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Erica Jane, she went down there delivering the line and said PK and Gerry, and what happened? They're separated. Kyle is coming back to the show looking as amazing as ever in her antler headpiece. She looked so gorgeous. She did an interview this week saying that Mauricio has moved out of the house. He moved out when she was out of town, that they still get along. They went to Stagecoach together. They still like to do things as a family, but she's still kind of working through a big life difference at the moment. Him not being in the house, a lot of the girls have gone to college and they're away and all the things. And she's like, it's really quiet in my house, and I just don't know what to do with myself. So Kyle was like playing the game. Is she coming back? Is she not? Is she coming back? Is she not? I feel like she does it every single year, kind of over it. But we have Kyle, Erica, Sutton, Garcelle, and Gerry all coming back. We have friends of Jennifer Tilly, Kathy Hilton, Amanda Day Cadenen. I don't know how to say the name. Okay. And there's one other newbie coming in, but I looked it up and I could not find it. And I couldn't find the Instagram that I saw it on. So I apologize for that. But yeah, season 14 seems to be off and running. As we know, Anna Marie Wiley is not coming back. Crystal's not coming back. And we're going to get what I think is going to be interesting is to see the friendship or lack of, or what happens between Kyle and Gerry. Now that they're going through a similar shared experience of going through public separations, even though they're kind of on the outs of their friendship, will this bring them back together? So we will see. Okay, wow, long-winded today. She was rambly pants. Leave a review, a little 5-star boop boop. Don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon. Bravo Friday is going to be on and poppin'. Bachelor Tuesday, Celeb Wednesday, Survivor Thursday. It's just all the rage. And don't forget, we are in the middle of launching an online shop. And if you are subscribed to the Love You Like Assist tier, you will get discount codes for merch coming soon. All right, that's all I got to say. So see you later. Love You Like Assist.